So, Dr. John, you talk a lot about placebo as well, right? I mean, speaking about consciousness, you talk about placebo. So, talk to us a bit about how powerful the placebo effect can be.
Well, you should know that when drug manufacturers make a drug, they the drug only has to outperform the placebo one time to be approved as a drug.
Mm.
And many drugs, best-selling drugs on the market today for depression, things like that, are on the market because they beat the placebo just one time. It's 60 something to 83 or 4% effective, the placebo, the ability to have this ability to change your body by changing your mind and heal. So there's something about it. And the mechanism is unclear, but there are these things we now know called biophotons. And biophotons, I don't know how deep we want to get, but this is a quantum physics discussion a little bit. And in quantum physics, the biophotons are photons that are information-carrying molecules in particles in our body that communicate within our body, and they carry information. And they also are changed by impressions. They're changed by your thoughts, by your intention. You can change and morph the quality of those biophotons. These biophotons also move in the body at the speed of light, not just in our body, but they communicate between your and my body are having a biophoton thing right now, even though you're wherever you are. They move at the speed of light at great distances. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, that these move at great distances at the speed of light instantaneously. So these are biophotons. Biophotons are changed by intention, right? So if I have this intention to get well, I change and alter my biophotons, which have a healing effect. Now, how does that make sense? A photon is a wave, it's a particle of light. That's what a photon is. But by definition, a photon is not only a particle of light, when you look at the visual light spectrum, it's also a wave. So a photon by definition is both a wave and a particle. Okay, so in the Vedic science, we have this, and this is quantum physics as well, there's an underlying field that predates the Big Bang. It predates space and time. It was there before any of this happened, and it's still here today. And this field, is called, many physicists believe it's consciousness, awareness. So, but it's the field is there, whether you believe it's conscious or not, the field has been well established. It's there. It's an underlying field of intelligence, been there forever. It's intelligent. We know it's intelligent. They say if this whole universe wasn't intelligent, it'd be like having a tornado fly through a junkyard and having the tornado put together a perfectly running, functioning airplane you can get in and fly. That's how impossible it would be for a tornado to go through a house, a field, a neighborhood, and put together an airplane. Not going to happen. That would be how mathematically, how possible it is for this to be random. It's not random. There's no way it's random. So the biophotons are photons that are at the junction point between that field and the physiology or the matter. At some point, this field becomes particles, and then at some point it becomes us, right? So if you can put your attention at the place where the field becomes matter, you can put your attention at the junction point between consciousness and matter. Now, in Ayurvedic medicine, and I believe a lot of the Vedic stuff because I've written so many articles on ancient wisdom being found 3,000 years later, proven in modern science. And one of their fundamental principles is that the cause of disease is called pragyapara, the mistake of the intellect, where the mind starts thinking itself as separate from the whole, from the field of intelligence. So we have this field of consciousness that becomes us, and then we start thinking we're so cool because we do dopamine instead of oxytocin. We stop thinking and realizing that my truth is in the consciousness, in the inner space. My truth is not out there. So the purpose of Vedic science, Ayurveda, was to restore the memory of pure consciousness in every cell. So if you have a field that becomes physiology, and then that physiology forgets that it's part of the field, and you wanted to restore the memory, where would you put your attention?
Inside.
Inside. Right at the junction point where the field and the physiology meet.
Mm-hmm.
And right at the junction point between the field and the physiology is things that are both particles and waves, because the field is waves and you and me are particles. So if you want to restore the memory, we put our attention to where the photons, the particles and waveforms exist. And that's the only place they exist, is as photons. So these biophotons that we have, if you are, and here's the interesting new science, they're changed by our intention.
Mm.
So if we can create intentions, then and at that level, we can bring awareness and facilitate events at the level of field and physiology. Now, they took a monkey, stuck him in a cage next to another monkey. One monkey had been radiated because they had some cancer. They put the healthy monkey next to the unhealthy monkey. And within 48 hours, the healthy monkey had more radiation damage than the monkey that was radiated of their cancer. And they measured the mechanism how that monkey got damaged, and it was biophotons. Prayer, when I pray, has been studied again and again and again to be effective. Now, not every study for prayer has turned out to be, positive, but there's so many, it's very difficult for us to dispute that prayer doesn't work. But now we have a mechanism for how prayer works. Prayer works by, accessing the eye of the storm, pulling back the bow,
Mm-hmm.
creating an inner experience of your truth, creating an intention at that level. We know from science that can create either coherent or incoherent biophotons. And if I create coherent biophotons from my truth, and I shoot the arrow with a prayer or an action from that place, it's a transformational action at whoever I am shooting the arrow at. And if it's prayer, we have a mechanism for understanding how this crazy thing called prayer could in fact work. And in India, there's distance healers on every corner almost. I mean, it's a very common thing that, give me a picture of your relative and I'll do a ceremony, or I'll do something and we'll have a healing effect. These are mechanisms and understandings that were passed down for thousands of years that are now backed by science.